Hello, and good afternoon to this Tuesday afternoon, another round of our bite-sized employability session. So nice to see you all again. Today we have a great topic, which is how to develop a successful career plan. I am Monica Fowler, the Talent Acquisition Marketing Specialist, and I have with me one of our special guests. Robyn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, lovely to meet you all, and thank you to everyone at Enterprise for the invite to be involved in today's session. My name's Robyn Brown. I am one of the career development managers from DeMontfort University. So I specialise in the business and law faculty specifically at DeMontfort University, but I will explain a little bit more about my career today a bit later through the sessions. Thanks, Monica.
We're going to go through three short pieces of information about the career plan, because this is so important to anybody really. And success can mean different things. It could be a little bit about your your career ambition. It could be financial ambition. It could be just making yourself, putting yourself into a rewarding or a fulfilling role in sustainability. It means something to everybody. It means something different to everybody. Really whatever yours is going to be obviously unique to you. So really make sure, we want to make sure that success, isn't the same for everybody. So starting with what is a career plan? What is a career plan? Of course, is steps to accomplish goals in your professional future. It helps identify what fields you want to pursue, helps develop long-term objectives, and devise a strategy for career success. So a career plan also helps you get organized about your future, whether you want that to be getting an internship, a graduate job, or what type of jobs you want to apply for. And of course, the career services and your resources at university really help provide a lot of those question marks and help you, fill in a lot of those blanks. And ideally, your career plan, and when you use the services correctly, when you create your career plan, it'll help you, it'll help motivate you, work as a tool to help you break down sort of a long journey into small steps that are much easier to execute. And it's so important because it might feel like it's a long time. This could be your final year. It'd be great to see in the text box what year you're all in. But if this is your final year, then clearly it's very important. But if it's your second year, maybe first year, and this is something that you want to start thinking about now, because there's so many options and there's so many things that you need to think about as well before you start your career plan. So getting into the first section of how to create a successful career plan, of course, starts with knowing your strengths, knowing you more than anybody, and identifying your strengths and whether or not those match the skills required for your chosen career is the first step. And these are some of our skills that we look for in our graduate and our internship programs that we would expect a candidate to be looking at to make sure that their skills really match up with our own. Robyn, I believe in your chosen degree, I believe is a little different to what you are working in now. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about your chosen degree?
Yeah, definitely. So just for kind of context for everybody, I think it's really important when you're thinking about your career planning to understand that it's not kind of a really stagnant thing. So as soon as you've made your career plan, it will not stay the same. It will constantly evolve and it will constantly change with the more that you understand your own skills and your own strengths, the kind of more through the more experiences that you have. So for myself, I actually studied law at university. So I went to university and did law. I actually went to the University of Lincoln, and I thought I wanted to be a solicitor. I really enjoyed law at A level, which I'm sure is a a reason that a lot of us go on to study the topics that we choose at university. So I did my first 2 years of law, was still adamant I wanted to be a solicitor. I then did kind of a summer internship and decided that it didn't really play to my strengths. It wasn't really what I enjoyed. For me, my skills are all about working with people and building relationships. And although there is an element of that being a solicitor, it wasn't the kind of main focus of that role. There are lots of other kind of skills that are better suited to that area of work. But it took me to kind of get that level of experience to understand that that wasn't going to be the right path for me. So I then finished my undergraduate degree, decided not to go on and become a qualified solicitor. I then worked for a year in sales, which I really, really enjoyed, which meant that I then went on to work in recruitment, which again is still sales really, but sales with people. So again, I was fulfilling that the kind of strength of mine of working with other people and building relationships. And then that's brought me onto a kind of a career now in supporting students to go on and kind of be successful in their own careers. So a few skills that I've picked up throughout kind of my university life and where I am now, which surprisingly wasn't that long ago, is all around kind of what makes me good at what I do now. So I really enjoyed the people side, but I really enjoyed coaching and helping other people as well. But I didn't know that at university because I hadn't had the life experience yet, or any experience really to show me what I was good at. So I think I would say the main thing around identifying your strengths and skills is don't worry if you don't know right now what they are. That you will go through lots of different experiences that will allow you to identify them. But there are ways that we can identify some now in your kind of, if you're still at university or if you're quite early on in your career. There are definitely ways that that you can look at what you've done so far, think about what you enjoy, think about your own kind of personality, I guess. What do your friends say about you? What do you, from the experiences you have had, what do you know you're good at, or what have managers told you you're really good at? I see a lot of students that just say, I don't really know what skills I have. Like, I've only worked part-time at Costa or something like that. Well, you'll have learned loads of skills from that. It's just being able to identify how they transfer to kind of your future and what that says about you as a person. So we can definitely kind of support you with that. When I say we, sorry, I'm talking about your career service in your own universities. I appreciate you'll all be from different universities, but yeah, that's a bit about me and what I think about kind of identifying your skills and strengths.
Yeah, thank you for that, Robyn. I think that's really pertinent because I when I speak to students, I sometimes feel that when they're applying, in particular for a role, they might be applying in the chosen field because their friends you know, have persuaded them, or maybe they've just sort of got into the degree that they've chosen because perhaps their network, their local network has done that. So it's really important that you think about you and really, you know, your personality and you know, finding out what your interests are first. And like Robyn, I also didn't necessarily know what I was good at. I just sort of felt that business. I did a business degree. Business was going to be the best way for me to progress and to find a you know, financially secure job. And I didn't necessarily choose it based on my skills. It did fit. You know, it definitely does suit my skills, but I don't think I necessarily chose it the right way around. And so asking yourself first, you know, what are you good at? How do you prefer learning? What are your interests? And start on that. And another technique as well is to identify your weakness. You know, if you know that you're perhaps not the strongest, you know, when it comes to maybe the creativity piece, or you know, perhaps the social media piece, and you want to go into marketing, you know, that might not be the best way forward. So really, you know, start with really an inward look into what you can bring and what you think, you know, you enjoy, and then start from there. And one of the things I know, Robyn, you've talked about in your role is you use some tools that students can use. And one of them is on the prospects, which we're going to talk about a little bit, but I know you work with some students a bit on identifying those soft skills quite early in their university years as well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So we get, I see a lot of students that are just really unsure as to what skills are the right skills to try to identify. They don't really know where to start. And I think that's always a big challenge. I use this analogy when I was speaking to Monica and Graham yesterday, but it's always when you think about, if I use the gym as an example, when I think about going to the gym, completely puts me off doing it. Whereas actually going to the gym isn't that bad once I get there. And it's the same with anything like this, anything careers related. The thought of getting started is often a lot harder than actually just doing it, because you overthink it, you tell yourself lots of reasons as to why not. So when I see a lot of students and they're just like, I don't know where to start, that's half of the battle. If you can kind of throw yourselves into these things and really focus on a starting point, what I ask my students to do is get them to go away and use kind of tools that are available. So Prospects, as Monica mentioned, and we might mention again later, but has got a really good kind of skills identifier. And it's just a little quiz you can go on and you can take, and it asks you kind of things like, what do you enjoy? And it gives you options, and it makes you just think about actually the skills that are important and that the employers will look for. So there's lots of them out there, and they're normally called things like skills identifiers or matching you to your perfect graduate job or something like that. I think we'll share the link with you anyway, but if you are really struggling as to where to start or how to start identifying them skills, that's a really good place, and it does spark conversation or thought, because when you get your results, you might think, oh, well, I don't really think I am good at that. And then you might be able to explore that a little bit more. Why is it saying that? And is that just because you've not been able to identify it, but actually based on your thoughts and your experiences, it does show that you are good at that. So if anything, it will spark thoughts in your own mind. So it's a nice starting point.
Yeah, thank you for that. Big believer that you will enjoy the role you're in if you're good at it. If you're struggling, and no matter what you do to get extra, do some extra bit of research or all the extra effort, it still isn't paying off. It just means the role isn't for you, and it would be really disheartening for you to figure that out in the role, of course. So that's why it's hugely important to do all this fact finding and reflection beforehand. Thanks, Robyn. And the next stage, after you've created, your a bit more of awareness and understanding of you, the skills you bring, what you like doing, what you think you would enjoy. And it doesn't have to be concrete, but creating some SMART goals will help you guide through each step now. And this is hugely important. I think, even in a career today, I do set myself SMART goals to be able to accomplish my long-term goals, to keep me, again, consistently working towards the success. And by implementing these nice and early, you'll then be able to really start seeing some of these fruition. And you may have heard of SMART goals before, but we use them in business all of the time. And they just stand for as being specific, a specific detail of what your goal is. So for example, it could be just as simple as getting a business degree from a specific university, or achieving, or better yet, being successful at an interview for an internship. So that is a specific goal you want to create, and then then you want to create a measurable quantity. So your goal you should be able to quantify. So measure how close you are to reaching it. So for example, you want to apply for the top 5 companies in your final year within 2 months of starting your academic year. So you're applying nice and early, or within a month of them opening, something like that, where you've got something to measure and keep you really, really on track. The A stands for achievable. So of course you want to set yourself a goal that isn't going to be far-fetched, and it's going to leave you deflated if you can't achieve it. You want it to be achievable. Think about the individual steps you can take to accomplish the goal, to make sure that they're really realistic, and it'll help you obviously reach your bigger ones. You want your goal to be relevant. So think about how your goal is going to improve your career perspective. For example, if you're going to be putting a goal in there of running every day or going to the gym every day, it's not relevant to your career path of becoming a lawyer or becoming, you know, a manager. So make sure that it's very relevant to your career. Let's have a look. And you'll also be able to reflect on, you know, obviously once you've quantified that, you'll be able to have it be timed, so you can set a specific goal that can be quantified. So measure how close you are to reaching it. For example, apply for your top 5 companies, which I've measured about, which I've mentioned, or set a deadline for goals to motivate yourself. And these goals are really great to have as part of your, as part of your career planning. So do you use these SMART goals with your students that come to you for help, Robyn?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like you said earlier on, it's good to get to a point where you will know if you've achieved what you're trying to set out. I think we can all say we're going to do things, but without anything that's measurable or any time on that, it's kind of an open-ended goal, which I don't think, especially when you're thinking about your career, is not really what you need. You need to have something that you're going to be able to know once you've achieved, so that you can move on to the next part of your plan. And I think it completely depends on what you're trying to achieve as to what them SMART goals will be. But yeah, definitely, Monica, I think it's a really, really important tool.
Fantastic. And then once you've got your plan or your goals, what's next is, of course, creating a plan. Creating a plan is so important, because a goal without a plan is just a wish. Some of you may have heard that famous quote before. So Robyn, can you tell us a little bit about what you do to really work with students that come to you and help them put all those things that they've worked on in terms of, you know, their skill sets and identifying their areas of interest and their goals and putting it together in a plan? Because this, I would say, is was definitely the hardest piece for me.
Yeah, definitely. So when I'm talking to students about their kind of next steps, I think it's really daunting to think about a career plan as one whole document or one whole journey. So I work with my students to break it down into kind of 3 areas. So I will always look at your kind of short-term and immediate goal. So what is the thing you're trying to achieve right now? And again, use that them kind of SMART measurable targets to make sure that you know when you've achieved that. And that might be kind of within the next few months, it might be by the end of the year, and that's completely up to you as an individual to set the kind of timescales on what your immediate or short-term goal is. I would then look at the kind of medium term. So I would say kind of the next 3 to 5 years, what are you wanting to achieve and what does that look like for you? And then I would look at your long-term goals. So what are you ultimately trying to achieve? Now, that doesn't mean for the rest of your life, because as I said right at the beginning, this plan will continuously change and it will always be evolving depending on your experience and exposure. But if you can understand what you're trying to achieve right now, your short-term and medium plans will hopefully feed into them long-term plans. So I often see students that will tell me that they want to do something before the end of the year, and then their 3 to 5 year plan is something completely different to what they're trying to achieve in 10 years, for example, as their long-term plan. Now, that doesn't make sense as a career plan. What you should be doing is taking steps short-term, medium-term to achieve your long-term. And if that changes, that's absolutely fine. But if you've not got a plan at all, you're not working towards anything. So I would always start with your short term, think about immediately what I'm trying to achieve. For a lot of you, that might be finishing university with a good grade, brilliant, if you are still a current student. If you've graduated already, it might be that you're looking at getting that first graduate job. And again, just break that down into them SMART goals. Be specific with it. What does that look like? When are you trying to achieve it by? Set something that's measurable for you, so you're going to be able to identify whether you have achieved it or not. Okay, it's really, really important. There's nothing more demotivating than setting a career plan that you can't achieve, because you're setting yourself up to fail from the off. So you really need to break it down into them separate bite-sized chunks to allow you to go on and understand and be successful with your career plan, okay? Your career plan, it needs to be realistic with your own expectations, okay? So think about what you're doing right now, and is that relatable to what you want to do in 10 years? And yeah, reach for the stars, stretch, but be realistic, okay? Because it wants to be seen as being achievable for you. And even if the long-term plan doesn't feel achievable right now, if you're taking the right steps with your short-term and your medium-term, become more and more achievable as time goes on, okay? So that's why I always work through with my students. Set yourself short-term, medium-term, long-term plan, and work through them. Make sure that it's all relatable to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's really great advice, Robyn, especially breaking it down like that with your small, your small bite-sized ones and your medium and then your long-term plans. And I think also being flexible and you might change hearts. You might have a complete, aha moment. You think, I'm really pursuing the wrong career. I'm really going about this the wrong way. Actually, I'm feeling like I want to challenge myself. I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to go for that specific career. What do I need to do? And so therefore, your plan can amend, you can amend it, you can change it. It doesn't have to be written in stone and you can't go back to it. And I always look back on this exact exercise I did before I actually went into university. And it really did help me. And I think looking back now, and I can see that I was on the right track. Yes, I tried some different things, but I think it's definitely reassuring that knowing that I was on the right track. So you don't always have to, keep it to how you wanted it. You can absolutely allow it to change your mind. So as we kind of open up now for questions, I think I just wanted to reinforce those three big takeaways that we've had. Obviously, take those tests on the Prospect website. I will share them on the chat. And create your SMART goals, put them down, just pencil them down, putting them down on paper is just, even that itself feels great to be able to do that. What do you want? Where do you see yourself in 3 years time, 5 years time? Start visualizing it, and then book in with your careers advisor and create this plan, because I think that way, you're really going to have a much more targeted approach to your career, your final years, which employers you're engaging with, which sessions you attend, and it will put you in a really great position for your interviews to talk about how you have built your career plan, how you built it together with with maybe some friends, some family support of the university, and what you've done to really manage that, because that shows for me and for other graduate employers. I think once you own that, when it's you've done something, you can talk about it. And you can show how you've managed your career plan, because no one's going to manage that. You're going to manage that. So those are our three takeaways as on the back of this session. So I do want to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but before I do, please do connect with us on social media if you haven't already. And if you have any questions at all, we obviously put them in the chat. Or if you want to explore more information about Enterprise Rent-A-Car, then please scan your phone to that QR code. So I'm going to stop sharing now and open it up to some questions. So we have a first question already here from some students. Says, what should I be doing to get experience at an industry that's completely different to the subject I studied? And I now realize I want to do something completely different. So that's really good question there from someone who's put that. Do you want to try that one, Robyn? What should I?
Yeah, of course. So I wouldn't worry too much about this change. So a lot of organizations now will recruit students from a breadth of degrees, okay? Because having a degree gives you so many transferable skills in terms of what you would have done over the course of your degree. It doesn't matter what topic it was in. As I said, I studied law, and what I went into was completely different, but my degree gave me so many skills that were transferable into lots of different sectors. So dependent on what you're wanting to go on to do, unless it's really, really specific, A lot of businesses and employers will look at students and graduates from lots of different courses. So please don't limit yourself based on the degree that you have. A nice way to get some experience and some exposure, especially for yourself when you're thinking about your career plan, if you want to try it before you kind of jump straight into it, try and do an internship, or try and do kind of a shorter program that allows you to get a bit of insight into the industry, especially if you've not studied it. You might not know too much about how that works, and you can do that through kind of an internship or even a graduate scheme that allows you to rotate around lots of different areas of the business. I just want to reiterate everything that we're saying today, and that a career plan is brilliant, but you're not necessarily going to 100% know what you're going to want to do when you finish university, okay? It's the $1 million question that everybody gets asked when they're in their final year. Your parents, everyone's got that annoying aunt that constantly asks you what you're doing when you finish. And a lot of people don't know, and I still don't really know. You will develop and change as time goes on. What I would focus on is, at this stage of your careers, when you're quite early on, is doing something that you think you're going to enjoy, okay? Do something that you think is going to enhance your skills, that you're going to go in and you're going to be able to understand whether you do like it or you don't like it, okay? Careers change all the time, but if you don't have a set plan from the off, then you're never going to get anywhere, okay? It's all just a starting point for you right now.
Yeah, that's a great way to answer that. Thank you, Robyn. I've got another question here. What's the best way to get transferable soft skills, and how can I match them to the job I want? That's a really good question. And the question comes up quite a lot because some students fear that they've not had the appropriate work experience. Maybe some of their employers that had, that they thought that they would be able to get some placement or internships with, obviously didn't have the internship program due to the pandemic, or a lot of businesses obviously didn't have that hiring need a year ago, really up until now, into sort of, I guess, 6 months ago until this point. So a great way that you can get some skills is, of course, yes, work experience helps, but utilize those extracurricular activities that you have been involved with at university, or maybe in your communities. Maybe you're doing some fundraising, maybe you're working in in your local church or your local homeless shelter. Utilize those extracurricular activities. Maybe you've been a member, not as sort of necessarily one of the leading members, but maybe you're a member of the dance society, or maybe you are part of the business society. Use those skills that you're learning in those groups, in those situations, in those settings. And what are you learning from them? Obviously, there's great communication. There's great, obviously, there's going to be some leadership. There's going to be some problem solving, conflict management, perhaps. There will be some soft skills there that you are practicing. You just don't realize it. So think more wider than your work experience to think about these skills. Think about, what responsibility you may have at home. Maybe you are caring for someone. Maybe you look after a younger sibling or an elderly person in your home, or family member. Those all bring lots of responsibility and lots of really great assets. So think outside of just your work experience. Really good question. I've got a question here about in the short-term online IT courses available. Are short-term online IT courses available, valued by employers as related skills? And what are the best options available for virtual work experience or gaining soft skills? That's a good question. Robyn, do you have an opinion on that, on online virtual courses?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that the virtual courses do bring a lot of skills to you, especially if you can get onto the right ones, essentially, that are going to be right for your next steps. I would say the main thing that employers see from students being involved in virtual courses is that it says a lot about your personality. A lot of interviews now, or especially as soon as the pandemic was kind of at its peak, was around what did you do during the pandemic. Now, if you just sat and watched Netflix for a year, that says quite a lot about you as a person. Whereas if you can show that you were proactively doing everything you could to gain some experience, says a lot about you. It says you're very proactive. It says you're kind of bothered about your career and you were trying, because to be completely honest, there was nothing else you could do during the pandemic. There wasn't loads of work experience and that was the only option. So if you're engaging in them, really, really important. And even now, as they've continued, because they have been successful and it is a lot more of an accessible way for students to get experience, definitely valued by employers. You just need to make sure that when you're putting them on your CV, you're identifying what you've learned from them, and kind of who was involved. A lot of this and a lot of kind of how you get your soft skills is all around how you put them on your CV. All of you will have soft skills to an extent, but it's how you sell them. Ultimately, your CV is a selling tool and it's all employers are going to see from you. So it's all about how you identify that and how you talk about that on your CV. In terms of the best options available, I would say that completely depends on what you're trying to do next. So when you're thinking about that kind of short term or medium term, think about what's the best virtual work experience for you to be involved in. Okay, if you want to work for a particular organization, then see if they have a kind of virtual work experience option. Or if you want to go in a particular sector, again, look at what's available in that sector. Don't just do one for the sake of doing one, because it's not going to get you any further. It needs to be relevant. Or if you don't know, do one that's relevant to your course and it might give you a little bit more exposure.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I think students often, do just kind of think, well, it's out of my control. Pandemic is it has hit you. It has hit everybody really hard. But I think to Robyn's point there is, we want to see as an employer, we want to see that you've done something with your time. And if you say, well, I was going to get an internship, but this happened, so I didn't go out and get that experience. That I think that just that really does show lack of effort or I guess motivation to try other things. So really good question, and thanks for answering that. We've now got to the end of our session, so thank you so much again to everyone who's joined. And we are live streaming today's session, and it will also be available recorded on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you do go onto our YouTube channel to find some pre-recorded videos. And also just want to say a great big thank you very much, Robyn, for your help and your support with everything that we do on campus with you guys, and also for your contributions today on this session with me. It's been really great having you.
Thanks, Monica. It's been lovely to be a part of it.
Have a good afternoon, everyone. Take care. See you soon.